Let's get to the news. The investigation into former President Donald Trump's business empire is expanding. The New York Attorney General's office put out a statement last night saying the investigation into the Trump Organization is now considered a criminal matter, in addition to the ongoing civil probe. The statement reads in part, "We have informed the Trump Organization that our investigation into the organization is no longer purely civil in nature. We are now actively investigating the Trump Organization in a criminal capacity, along with the Manhattan District Attorney." New York Attorney General Letitia James has been at the forefront of legal action against Trump's family business. Her office offered no explanation for what prompted the change in its investigation. The Washington Post points out that the danger previously posed by James's investigation seemed to be merely financial. The kind of lawsuit Trump had faced from New York attorneys general before over Trump University and his charity. Now, however, James could also seek criminal penalties. An attorney for the Trump Organization declined to comment on the matter. Trump and his representatives have repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. Joe?
Yeah, Jonathan Lemire, I've been growing impatient over the past months over leaks from the FBI and other prosecutors saying this, behind the scenes we hear this or that or whatever. I've now read 437 articles about how what happened today makes Matt Gaetz' situation worse. I keep reading about Rudy Giuliani. We got used to this during the Trump era. Oh, a leak here, a leak there. Oh, they're sure to go to jail. It happened back during the Bush era. Karl Rove, as I've said before, every Friday they'd say, hey, make sure you're around to go to the TV studio. Karl Rove, this is the day. We just heard from the FBI a leak that Karl Rove's going to go to jail, blah, blah. I say all that to say this wasn't a leak. This actually was from the office. I don't know if that means anything. I'm not sure about why you announced we are now investigating him for a criminal. Do your investigation, bring the charges, or don't bring the charges. But again, this really wasn't a leak. This is the office basically saying we're looking into criminal charges against Donald Trump.
Yeah, Joe, you've made your feelings about leaks pretty well known in recent weeks. But no, this is a highly unusual statement, though, even if it comes out the front door of the office. Not a leak, but rather a planned statement from a spokesperson from the Attorney General's office, confirming that they are now looking into a criminal matter, but not just a civil one. That's not something we hear very often from offices like this, but certainly it ramps up the pressure on the former president and his business, the Trump Organization. We know that this has been an investigation that's long in the works, that some of the president's closest allies have been interviewed in the recent months, including his adult children, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., who have been running the business while Donald Trump was in office, as well as some of the top officials at the Trump Organization, like Michael Cohen and Alan Weisberg. So that evidence, those testimony, has been collected over the recent months. Now, what exactly they're looking at here remains, of course, somewhat of a mystery. It's the Trump Organization's businesses, it's tax procedures. These are the things that they are looking at. But to go through a criminal matter, inherently, of course, is a far bigger deal than civil. Now, whether this leads to charges or not, unclear. That certainly doesn't say that. What kind of timeline we're working on now? Unclear. But it's also, we know that there have been investigations from the Manhattan District Attorney, Cy Vance, the Attorney General, Letitia James, herself, former politician, longtime adversary of Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. So we will see in the coming days, weeks, months, where this leads. But certainly, at minimum, we know the former president faces some legal jeopardy coming out of office, potentially in a few jurisdictions, and it's ramping up in New York.
Let's bring in a couple more legal voices to help understand this. Boston Globe columnist and a former trial and appellate litigation attorney, Kimberly Atkins. She's an MSNBC contributor and co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast, along with Joyce Vance, Jill Wine-Banks, and Barbara McQuaid, all familiar voices and faces on this network. Also with us, MSNBC legal analyst Danny Savalos. Good morning to you both. So, Danny, let me begin with you. Just in plain terms, why is this a significant announcement, if you believe it is?
Simply put, it's more investigative power going into the criminal side of the investigation. Now, the New York State Attorney General, like other attorneys general, has a broader role than, say, a district attorney's office because they investigate civil matters, such as charities that are not living up to their charitable status. They investigate all kinds of different consumer protection issues. They also are a law enforcement branch. So in that sense, they have a much more diverse set of interests. So for the Attorney General to add to its investigation, a previously civil investigation, that this is a criminal investigation. Of course, they're still investigating violations of New York state law, just like the Manhattan District Attorney's Office would be. But that tells you there's a lot more man and woman power going into this investigation now, this criminal side, than previously thought.
And Kimberly, looking at Letitia James, and she's been following problems that she's been seeing happening in the Trump organization and toward the presidency for his entire presidency. Could this branch out to family members? Are there any indication as to how widespread this is?
Yeah, so the answer is it could. We don't know yet. We only have this one brief statement that came out of the state attorney general's office. But the difference between a civil matter and what we saw, for example, with the Trump charity, where the charity was shut down, people involved in it were no longer able to run charities. With a criminal investigation, it brings in other elements as well. If there was criminality suspected based on what she has found, it depending on who it is, you might get somebody who may be facing charges, who may be pressed to perhaps cooperate in advancing that investigation. We know, as we already stated, that they have already talked to folks like Michael Cohen. So when you have a criminal investigation like that, it can sprawl out as that investigation moves forward. So perhaps that was one reason for announcing this, just to put people on notice about that. But, you know, like we said, there is a broad ability here to with this expansion of the investigation. It's reported that it is not just what District Attorney Cy Vance in Manhattan is investigating, that there is some overlap between these two, but that they are separate. But that can mean there's also there could also be sharing of information between the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and the State Attorney General. It's certainly a ramp up. We don't know exactly where it's going or how broad it is yet, but it certainly isn't good news for the Trump organization.
Hey, Danny, let's deliberately get ahead of ourselves here. There's been some talk about the concept of extradition and about the former president, who, of course, faces legal scrutiny in a number of places. New York, we've discussed, also Georgia, the District of Columbia, because of the events of January 6th. And there's been some thought that if he is, say, in one of his homes, whether it's Florida or New Jersey, that perhaps there would be an extradition effort to bring him back to New York if he were to eventually face charges. Can you walk us through what this all means and how it would work, if someone can stop extradition, whether it can happen, whether this is something we should really be considering in the months ahead?
It would work very easily for the government agency that is prosecuting someone if he's in the United States. Former President Trump would have to be in his house in Saudi Arabia or Brazil for extradition to pose any barrier to the New York State Attorney General or any law enforcement authority in New York to bring him back. Procedurally, it's a simple process. Let's say, for example, someone's in Florida, they're arrested, you want to bring them back to New York. There's a hearing in Florida, a relatively brief hearing. The defendant is not going to be able to oppose extradition in between states. It could be said that all the United States have extradition treaties with each other, and that treaty is you can have whoever you want, because there really isn't any ability of a state to hold on to someone and keep another state from prosecuting them. Finding them, tracking them down, serving an arrest warrant on them in another state, that can create procedural complexities, but it's nothing that a little interstate cooperation among law enforcement can't solve.
All right, Danny Savalas and Kimberly Atkins, thank you both very much. We'll be following this.